That evening, Kato asked him to watch over his spiced meat for a few minutes as he rushed home to pick up some salt. Musoke seized the opportunity, quickly mixing the monkey meat with the fresh cuts that Kato had prepared for the day. The deed was done. Before anyone could notice, Musoke hurried back to his stall, his heart pounding with a mix of excitement and dread. Once upon a time, in the heart of a bustling rural town, there was a roadside market where the aroma of sizzling meat and spices filled the air. Two childhood friends, Kato and Musoke, stood side by side with their roasted meat stalls, a testament to their enduring friendship. Kato's stall, Kato's sizzling delights, was a marvel with juicy chunks of meat sizzling on skewers, enticing passers-by with irresistible flavors. Musoke's stall, Musoke's meat haven, though smaller, still managed to attract a loyal clientele. The tantalizing aroma of sizzling meat wafted through the air, drawing villagers and travelers on the highway from all corners. Kato and Musoke shared a dream that had become a reality. They both owned thriving roasted meat stalls by the roadside. As boys, they had always been close, growing up together in a small village. Theirs was a simple life. From their earliest days, the two had been inseparable. They had learned to work together, fished in the same streams, and had their first taste of roasted meat under the same starry sky. Then they both started selling roasted meat at the roadside market to travelers and villagers. They hoped to make a living from it. And for some time, their businesses flourished and they were over the moon. Kato would wake up before dawn each morning, when the village was still covered in mist, and go to the market to pick the freshest cuts of meat. The butcher always set aside the best meat for Kato, knowing that his discerning eye would not settle for anything less. Kato's store was always surrounded by eager customers, attracted by the rich aroma and perfect seasoning of his meat. The meat he sold was also known for its tender texture, drawing a steady stream of customers. Kato's store was a real crowd puller. The village and the travelers adored Kato's meat, praising its tenderness and flavor, and they came back to the store night after night. Musoke's store, though popular, never quite matched Kato's success. Musoke struggled to keep up. His customers dwindled and word spread in the town and nearby villages that Kato's meat was superior. Then as time went on, a difference began to emerge. Then frustration and envy began to fester in Musoke's heart as he watched his friend's success. Although Musoke would congratulate Kato and say he was happy he was getting many customers, he never actually meant it. Beneath the surface, Musoke's jealousy simmered, fueled by Kato's success. And it increased when Kato received a prestigious award for his culinary skills. Musoke felt overlooked. Musoke began to pace, his mind racing with sinister thoughts. Why should Kato have all the success? He muttered. I would show him, I would show them all. Back in his small tidy kitchen, Kato would blend his spices, an ancient recipe passed down from his ancestors. The herbs and seasonings, carefully measured and mixed, were a family secret, one that had made his meat famous throughout the village. As he roasted the skewers over the open fire, he would hum softly to himself, his hands moving with a practiced skill to ensure each piece was roasted to perfection. The villagers returned to his stall night after night, eager to taste his latest creation. Musoke watched with growing envy as Kato's stall consistently drew more attention than his own. Despite his efforts, To keep his stall neat and his meat well prepared, it seemed that Kato's meat had captured the villagers' attention in a way that Musoke's hadn't. Musoke had always been proud of his meat, convinced that it was just as good as Kato's, if not better. However, the undeniable reality was that something about Kato's meat was different, and the villagers had taken notice. Musoke then struggled to push the envy away and to focus on improving his methods, but the bitterness gnawed at him like a persistent ache. Every compliment Kato received felt like a personal slight, and every laugh from a satisfied customer felt like a dagger in Musoke's heart. Musoke then began to spend more time alone, brooding in the shadows of his stall, his mind churning with dark thoughts. One evening, after a particularly slow day, Musoke sat by his dying fire, staring into the embers. He couldn't understand why Kato's meat was so much more popular. They both bought their meat from the same butcher, used the same firewood, and roasted their skewers on identical grills. Yet Kato's stall was always crowded, while his was nearly deserted. Musoke said to himself, "Let me ask him to show me what he does, then I will also succeed." He first started by asking Kato to show him how he prepares his meat and the spices he uses. Willingly, Kato showed him everything without leaving out anything. They even got to a point where they spiced the meat together and split it evenly for each to roast in their stall, but still most customers went to Kato's stall. As Musoke continued not to get customers, a dangerous thought began to take shape in his mind. What if I could find a way to sabotage Kato's success? What if instead of improving my stall, I could bring Kato's down? He murmured to himself. The idea was like a spark igniting the dry tinder of his envy into a blazing fire. Musoke knew he had to do something, and he had to do it soon. Musoke couldn't bear to watch his business crumble while Kato thrived. In his heart, Musoke knew that Kato was a good man, a loyal friend, but envy is such a powerful poison, one that can twist even the strongest bonds. Soon enough, Kato noticed Musoke's dwindling customers and tried to console his friend. "Musoke, my brother," Kato said one evening as they packed up for the night, "don't worry, maybe it's just a passing trend. Tomorrow will be different." One night, after another day of poor sales, Musoke sat brooding under the stars. The firelight flickered around him, casting shadows that matched the darkness growing in his heart. If I can't have customers, neither should he. A devious plan began to take shape in his mind, one that would bring Kato's thriving business to its knees. The next morning, Musoke, assisted by another meat roaster, went to a well-known herbalist far away to get charms that would lure customers to his stall. As the sun rose, casting golden lights over the village, the smell of his roasting meat filled the air, richer and more tantalizing than before. Sure enough, people began to notice, "Musoke's meat is different today," some of them whispered as they bit into the skewers. "It's tastier, more exotic." Slowly, some of Kato's regulars started wandering over to Musoke's stall. They were curious about the new flavor. And Kato, who had always been proud of his friend's nyamachoma's skill, felt a pang of concern. He didn't understand why his customers were leaving, but he was genuinely happy to see Musoke's business picking up again. He never suspected that Musoke had a specific potion or charm he used to attract customers, and in any case, it was none of his business. But Musoke's envy was not yet satisfied. He knew that merely winning back some customers wasn't enough. He wanted to ruin Kato completely. So, using some boys he paid, he spread a vicious rumor throughout the village. Kato's secret to his delicious meat is that he uses monkey meat. The rumor spread like wildfire, and soon the villagers began to murmur among themselves, their eyes narrowing with suspicion whenever they passed Kato's store. The rumor reached Kato's ears, and his heart sank. How could anyone believe such a thing, he thought. Deeply hurt, he couldn't fathom why someone would start such a lie. Many clients, especially those in the village, stopped buying Kato's meat and brought from other roasters or Musoke. He only now served travelers who did not know about the rumor. Musoke spent the next few days plotting. He knew that if he wanted to grow his business, he had to attack the very thing that made Kato's meat store successful, and that was the meat. But how could he do that without getting caught? The answer came to him one night as he lay awake, staring at the ceiling of his small hut. The forest! The monkeys! He said to himself. The next morning, Musoke ventured into the forest. He knew the paths very well, having explored the woods many times as a child. He walked deeper and deeper into the trees until he reached a secluded spot, far away from the village. And he waited there, where he set the trap to capture the monkeys. And the monkeys were considered sacred and untouchable in that village. Then the very thought of eating monkey meat was a taboo so severe that it could lead one to be exiled from the village. Anyway, as hours passed, and just as Musoke was beginning to lose hope, he heard a rustling in the bushes. His heart pounded as the small monkey emerged cautiously, approaching the trap. Musoke held his breath, watching as the monkey reached for the bananas. In a flash, the trap closed and the monkey was caught. Musoke's hand first trembled as he approached the primate, its frightened eyes meeting his, but he pushed the guilt aside, knowing that he had no choice. Returning to the village, Musoke made sure no one saw him as he slipped into his house. Musoke then carefully prepared the monkey meat, mixing it with his regular stock. He worked with a strange calmness, his mind focused on the task at hand. By the time the sun was setting and the villagers were beginning to gather for the evening market, Musoke's stall was ready. The smell of his roasted meat filled the air, richer and more tantalizing than ever before. Sure enough, people began to murmur, "Musoke's meat is becoming better. Go taste it." Many went to his stall and bought meat from him that day, and he made lots of money. He captured more monkeys for some time, waiting for a good time to also trap Kato. And as fate could have it, one sunny Saturday, as they started roasting their meat, Kato asked him to watch over his spiced meat for a few minutes as he rushed home to pick some salt he had forgotten. Musoke seized the opportunity, quickly mixing the monkey meat with the fresh cuts that Kato had prepared for the day. The deed was done. Before anyone could notice, Musoke hurried back to his stall, his heart pounding with a mix of excitement and dread. Kato returned and began his usual preparations, unaware of the treachery that had taken place. By evening, the delicious scent of roasting meat filled the air, once more, and the villagers flocked to his store. I mean, Kato's store, eager for their favorite meat. But Musoke wasn't done. Whispers grew louder, and soon a sense of unease settled over the village. Then came the day that would change everything. The following evening, after work, and to seal Kato's fate, Musoke waited until the dead of night, when the village was silent and still. He crept into Kato's kitchen, placing the dead monkey in a corner, half buried beneath cooking utensils. It was the final piece of evidence, one that he thought would surely destroy his reputation for good. He made it appear as though Kato had indeed been using monkey meat. Musoke felt a twisted sense of satisfaction as he imagined Kato's downfall. Please take a break and kindly subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so by now. It helps me a lot. Thank you so much. And now let's continue with the tale. So the next morning, a group of villagers led by the chief marched to Kato's store, their faces stern and unforgiving. "Kato," the chief called out, his voice booming. "There are grave accusations against you. We must search your home." Kato, still reeling from the loss of his customers and the vicious rumors, could only nod, and his heart was heavy with worry. Then they stormed into Kato's house and they searched. The tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a knife. The villagers gathered around, whispering among themselves, their eyes filled with suspicion. They searched every corner, every nook and cranny, until one of them let out a gasp. Hidden beneath a pile of firewood was a dead monkey. Its fur matted, with its eyes wide with death. The sight of it sent a wave of horror through the villagers. "You've betrayed us so," shouted one of the villagers. "We trusted you, Kato, and you've fed us the forbidden?" Then one of the elders let out a gasp. "Here!" he cried, pulling out another dead monkey. The crowd erupted in anger and shock, their worst fears confirmed. "So it is true," they shouted. "He's been feeding us monkey meat all along? Oh my God!" The scene was chaotic. Women screamed and the men shouted in fury. To consume monkey meat was a grave taboo. No one ate monkeys, and it was known that eating monkey meat could bring misfortune to the entire village. So the betrayal they felt was so profound. Kato tried to protest, his voice trembling with fear and confusion. I did not do this," he pleaded. "I swear I didn't know. I didn't know of this. I didn't know there was a monkey in my kitchen. I did not put it there." But his words fell on deaf ears. The villagers were too consumed by their outrage to listen. The chief's face was dark with anger. "Kato, you have dishonored us all," he said coldly. "You will be punished for this deception." At his command, Kato was seized and beaten by the mob, his cries for mercy drowned out by the fury. He was dragged away, his body bruised and bloodied, to be imprisoned while the village decided his fate. Musoke watched from the shadows, a twisted smile on his face. His plan was finally working perfectly. But not everyone was convinced of Kato's guilt. An old woman, known for her wisdom and sharp eyes, had seen something that others had missed. She lived on the outskirts of the village, near the edge of the forest, and had watched Musoke's strange behavior with growing suspicion. The night before he hid the monkey in Kato's kitchen, she had seen him returning from the forest with something hidden in his basket. Her instincts told her something was amiss. So she called her young son, a clever boy with a keen sense of curiosity, and told him to follow Musoke. "Watch where he goes and what he does," she instructed. The boy did as he was told, trailing Musoke as he snuck into Kato's kitchen. He watched as Musoke planted the dead monkey and took photos with his phone, as well as videos, capturing the evidence that would later prove Kato's innocence. So, as the village was still reeling from the discovery of in Kato's kitchen, the old woman and her son approached the village chief. "Chief," she said, her voice steady but urgent, "you must see this." She showed him the videos and the photos and recounted what her son had witnessed. The chief's eyes widened in shock as he realized the truth. The truth spread quickly through the village. The chief, ashamed of his quick judgment, asked Kato to be freed so he could make amends. The chief then addressed the villagers, reminding them of the importance of trust and fairness. He said, "We were quick to believe lies without seeking the truth. Let this be a lesson to us all." The chief explained, addressing the crowd and holding up the photo for all to see. "We have wronged Kato," he announced. "The real culprit is Musoke. He is the one who deceived us all." Another elder spoke gravely. "Musoke has betrayed our trust and poisoned our people with envy. He has let his jealousy drive him to dishonor himself and our village and our traditions. Envy can lead even the closest friends astray. But you see, truth and integrity will always prevail," he emphasized. Kato stood to the side, his expression a mix of sadness and relief. He had never wished for Musoke's downfall, only for the truth to be revealed. The elder turned to Kato and said, "We owe you an apology, Kato. Your integrity never wavered, even when we doubted you. We should have known better." Gasps of disbelief echoed through the crowd. Musoke, who had been standing smugly among them, turned pale as the villagers began to murmur and point at him. "Is it true?" they demanded. "Did you frame Kato?" Musoke, realizing he had been caught, tried to flee, but the villagers were too quick. They seized him, dragging him to the center of the square. "You will face justice for this," the chief declared, his voice ringing with authority. "Not only have you broken the bonds of friendship, but you have also endangered us all with your lies." So, as Musoke was led away to face punishment, the villagers turned to Kato, their faces filled with shame and sorrow. "We were wrong to doubt you," the chief said again, placing a hand on Kato's shoulder. "Can you ever forgive us?" Kato, still shaken by the ordeal, nodded slowly. "I forgive you," he said quietly. "But this has taught us all a valuable lesson about trust and the dangers of envy." Few weeks passed, and the villagers decided to make amends. They rallied together to help Kato rebuild his reputation, spreading the word far and wide that Kato's meat was and it had always been pure and delicious. They built him a new modern meat store and threw a grand feast in his honor. Musoke, on the other hand, was banished from selling meat in the village, and he was given a chance to atone for his actions by working for the community in other ways. Kato chose to forgive Musoke, even though their friendship was never the same. The two men would still exchange polite nods when they crossed paths in the village. Musoke carried the weight of his actions every day, but he gained a new understanding of the dangers of envy and the importance of honesty. As time passed, the villagers became more careful with their words, more cautious in their judgments, and more appreciative of the hard work that went into their community. The village thrived, and Kato continued to serve his customers with pride and integrity. This story teaches us three things. First, envy can lead to destructive actions, but the truth always comes out. It also reminds us of the importance of trust and the dangers of rushing to judgment without first seeking the truth. And finally, the tale teaches us that trust is fragile, and once broken, it can never be fully mended. It's important to appreciate the successes of others and strive to better oneself through hard work and honesty. Thank you so much for watching and for listening. So, imagine yourself in Kato's situation. How would you react if your closest friend, like Musoke, betrayed you in the way he did? Share your thoughts in the comments section, and please remember to subscribe for more stories exploring the intricacies of human emotions and relationships. Be so blessed.